What is up? Trails Up podcast back at it again. It's been since 2019, so we were starting season 2 way after we've survived COVID, maybe, and we are back at it. We have some football tonight. It's not going to be great football, but we have football back tonight. A little Ben DiNucci, Dwayne Haskins action.
Dwayne
in the
Haskins
Hall of
got
Fame.
cut. I believe he got cut.
He got
So
cut today?
no, a while ago there was. I think
No, he's still on the team.
he had some off-field issues. I want to
No,
check. I
that was
want to
his
check them.
wife. His wife
Okay,
got into a
okay.
bar fight or something.
Well, I knew that part, but I thought Haskins was cut.
No, he's playing tonight. Apparently, he's going to take the most snaps at quarterback for them, so that's going to be very
Makes sense.
entertaining. Yeah, the last time we had a podcast, I think I was looking back at our documents. I think Tua had just gotten injured at Alabama, which was like at the end of 2019 season. So it's been a long time. Excited to be back. This first show will obviously be a little more rough around the edges, but hopefully it will get better as we go.
Yeah.
And we'll dive more into the football season coming up. Obviously, preseason starts tonight, but we have the, NCAA season starting at the end of the month and then NFL the next week. So it should be exciting. And of course, we'll get to other sports. But let's start it off with the sport that we come to talk about, NCAA. It's been a crazy offseason. Less like on the field stuff, but off the field stuff, it's been nuts. Between them adding the playoff teams, so we're gonna have a bunch more playoff teams now. Not sure if it's actually official, but pretty much set in stone in a few years that we'll have 12 teams. And then the NIL, which has been huge for players to make money on their likeness. And then, of course, the biggest one is the SEC is just taking every team in the nation. So let's start off with that, since that's the big topic. Obviously, if you're not familiar with what happened, Texas and Oklahoma pretty much told the Big 12 they're out. And then 2 days later, they signed with the SEC, and they will be starting to play with them in 2025. So what's your initial take on this? And then obviously there's a bunch of other rumors that we can get into as well.
Yeah, I think to backtrack a little bit, last show was 2019. We punted. We were held to 3-and-out in 2020, so we punted that year. So let's just count this year as the very next season. So
no, the thing is, we haven't done an episode in forever, and we're excited to get it. And You're busy playing MLB The Show. You're like telling me I have 3 more outs. I gotta get these outs. Like, come on.
Listen, I'm a battle royale guy. Right, every out matters in that game. But listen, we're on the football. We're on the football right now. And it has been a crazy offseason. And I think the big thing with the Texas and Oklahoma thing it almost balances out how exciting it is that we're going to have a 12-team college playoff or an expanded college playoff. That's something that I've been clamoring for. I know a lot of people have. It just makes total sense. Even from the revenue side, the NCAA and the BCS they're making more money right now. So each conference is making money. But the big question is now, how is this going to affect the 12-team brackets? I mean, Texas and Oklahoma were essentially surefire, candidates to be in at least 1 to 2 teams in the playoff. So with them, they're joining a harder schedule. Yeah, they're getting more money. There's a lot more revenue to be had in the SEC. The Big 12 isn't one of those conferences that lacks in what they do and are lacks in generating revenue and generating TV. I mean, they had a big deal with ESPN, and to be honest, there are rumors that if Texas and Oklahoma leave early, they got to sign a fat check to the Big 12. So if they want to, the Big 12 could say, all right, peace. We'll get someone coming like Cincinnati
but they are losing their 2 money makers pretty much.
100%.
Which hurts a lot. I mean, it's huge for the SEC. Now, the interesting thing would be, I'm guessing they didn't finalize the playoff format for the expanded playoff yet, because they kind of had a feeling that some of this stuff was going to go down.
Yeah.
Because some of the rules that people were talking about is each conference was going to get a designated spot, and then the rest was going to be open to like whoever had the
At
best like
larges.
resume. Yeah, at large.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were saying, I mean, I think it's huge for college football to have this. I think it's going to get more eyeballs. I think a lot of people tune in for March Madness because it's exciting. There's a bunch of teams. You make a bracket. And I think this is huge. They just had to figure out exactly how it was going to work with, the seeding and how many games there were going to be, because it's already a long season, grueling on some of the bodies. And so I think if they can figure it out, I think it's awesome, and it's going to bring in a ton of revenue and probably a ton of new fans also.
Well, I think that's the people that are probably affected the most are the fans. I mean, thank God the Red River rivalry is coming to staying intact. I mean, that's something that when for me, when Michigan and Ohio State, when there was a reorganization of the divisions in the Big Ten, like we were worried that is that rivalry going to stay intact, and thankfully it did. So yeah, as a fan of college football, thank God that that rivalry is staying intact. But the big thing is how is that going to impact the playoffs? Like you said, and I think what people sometimes forget, which I think about too, is we love the expanded playoffs, but the last couple of years, the number 1 seed, whether it's been Clemson or Alabama, and number 4 seed, which has most likely been Notre Dame or Oklahoma, have been absolutely spanked first round. So if people can get excited about 12 versus 1 seed, or I think it probably will be even 1 versus 8 or whatever that.
Yeah, I think they're going to do buys. So.
Yeah. So like the 1 versus 8 or the 1 versus lower. So Alabama versus, let's say, Cincinnati for lack.
Yeah, they're going to crush them. Yeah.
It's going to be a slaughter. And yeah, it's exciting for Cincinnati to get involved, but I think fans need to understand that, listen, there's a chance, and it's all about sneaking the playoffs, and anything can happen. But I think there's a lot less parity in college football because of those powerhouses, they're recruiting money, and now the NIL being what it is. You got kids committing. It even worse. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you got kids committing early. We'll get to that obviously, but I'm excited for it. I've obviously loved the 12 team or it's 12, right? That's correct. It is 12. It's 12 team playoff. I'm excited for that. I know every college football fan should be, and I think for every fan of Oklahoma and Texas, we'd love to hear your feedback on that. We'd love to kind of know how you think, and I know you got a Big 12 following. So that's what I'm curious about, is those diehard Red River rivalry fans and how they really feel about this.
Well, the nice thing is it's gonna, I think teams like UCF and Cincinnati and some of those teams that we've seen, BYU last year, for example, teams that have like just been on the cusp of having a chance, they're gonna get their shot now. And don't get me wrong, I think they're gonna get absolutely crushed by these big powerhouses.
It's an adjustment period that they'll go through.
But I think it's nice to have them have a chance. I mean, I say the same thing with March Madness every year. There will always be someone left out. Unless you have a field that includes every single team, there's always going to be a last 4 in, last 4 out type of deal. And that's going to be the same with college football. People complain about who's left out at 5 and 6, like Texas A&M this year. But as soon as we go to the 12, people are going to be like, oh, well, 13 and 14 deserve to be in. At some point, you have to cut it off somewhere.
I think in football, it's a little bit more cut and dry. Like you get the
like
12,
what you were saying.
Yeah, the 13th team is probably like an 8-4 Texas A&M. And I think rightfully so that Cincinnati, like for example, this happened when Boise State was the powerhouse that they were in the early 2000s. They would obviously be in every year because they'd be undefeated. Even if they were the 12th seed, they would be undefeated versus an 8-4 Texas A&M. And I think strength of schedule, now that these two teams, Texas and Oklahoma, are jumping in, strength of schedule, I think it's going to be a little bit skewed. But yeah, like you said, teams like Cincinnati are going to have a chance because their strength of schedule goes way up. UCF schedule goes way up. They're going to get probably shellacked the first couple seasons. But if they don't, then old tick expose me. But I do think it's going to be a grace period. I think that it's still exciting. But again, I'm curious to know what Texas and Oklahoma fans and Big 12 fans alike think. I haven't been able to find that.
I mean, I kind of would be worried. I mean, they do get really good recruiting. So, they could compete, but I don't know. I've seen, I can tell from an eye perspective that the teams aren't at the same level. But, it might be one of those things where, just going to take a little bit of time once they do join the SEC to get used to like the type of play that they have in that league. I mean,
there's defense. The SEC's got the top defenses every year. I mean, and they're going to have to play defense. Jalen Hurts can't run up and down the field anymore. And Spencer Rattler, man, he might get, guy like him would get absolutely destroyed. So, yeah.
He was getting destroyed by Kansas State earlier last year.
So. Exactly.
So now the crazy thing is with, Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, there's been a lot of fallout from that and a lot of rumors coming in all over the place with all different type of leagues. So, the one of the big rumors that came out recently was Clemson and Florida State trying to join the SEC too, which is obviously pretty interesting, and it's the right geographic region. And obviously that's not going to bring as much revenue as bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. But I'm not sure if they're going to do it. And I'm worried if teams start to do this and just everybody starts joining the SEC, where are we going to end up? Like, there was a rumor out there, and I think this is bullshit, but there was a rumor for a little bit that Michigan and Ohio State were going to try and join the SEC, which is just like, well, are we just going to have all the best teams in one conference?
So we forget the rumor back in the day when the Power 5 conferences were just going to completely, leave the BCS, leave the NCAA, do their own thing, govern their own body, and I do see in our next topic, we're going to talk about Iowa State and Kansas. I'm just going to jump right to it. But the Big Ten, like them want to join the Big Ten. Like, there are some steady conferences. I'm surprised, the conferences like the Pac-12 are what they are. But what bothers me, or what, because I say about the Pac-12 because they just went through a whole commissioner change. They had the whole governing body change.
Yep.
But so I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to Florida State and Clemson. The ACC is the strongest basketball conference in sports, and there are some, like Notre Dame, for example. They're independent in football, but also they're in the ACC in basketball. So, I think because Notre Dame has been kind of grandfathered in as an independent, and they'll, hopefully they do join. I think it's tough to look at a team to be in one conference in football and the other conference in basketball, just because, it would be new. It would probably be weird. It'd be obviously them. It's almost like them milking the most money. They're in the SEC. Yeah, I mean, Clemson should be. They shouldn't be continual walk-ins. Every time that they play. Like they walk all through the ACC, and there's no competition really. And I think that there should be some more competition. That Florida State should get back to what they used to be. But them leaving it and being in two different conferences, two different major sports, to me, I think it's bad. I think it's bad for college sports.
Well, the thing with me is, like, obviously thinking business wise for the SEC and like all these conferences, I get that adding these new locations and these big programs to bring in more money is like the sensible thing. But there's like this fan inside my head that's like, I kind of want like the conferences to like represent certain regions. Absolutely. And so it starts to get scary when, like, there's been a rumor that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have been talking, and that they want to like add USC to like the Big Ten. And I just think that's like crazy to me, like to have, like Rutgers.
You can't be trading teams. I mean, that is a weird concept, but if we want to make this a reason, you talk about COVID and less traveling. There's been some restructured of divisions in baseball. There's restructured. That stuff's happened. Your point of having everything regional makes sense, but what happens when you have a Clemson and Florida State? Is that really and Texas A&M? Do they go back to the Big 12? Like, there is definitely some reshuffling. I did see some content on Instagram where it was like the Power 5 basically eat up every single NCAA. So that's like UCF goes like the ACC or something like that, and and like I'm sure it's like UTEP goes to the Big 12 or something like that. So, that would be interesting too. But I worry about some teams. I do worry about some teams.
No, I think the ones that do make sense is there's like rumor about the Big 12 and the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, teaming up. That kind of makes sense to me. Like, they're trying to replace the hole that Texas and Oklahoma put in their revenue, and they're trying to bring more teams in. That is one that makes sense for me. I think the biggest storyline to watch is exactly what you were talking about is Notre Dame. Like, what are they going to do?
I think
I
that's the
think
big one.
they're the biggest one to fall in. They're like the one that the SEC could potentially look at that's going to bring in even more revenue than, potentially Oklahoma is going to.
But if we're talking
And
about region, why did they not join the Big Ten? That's a team
yeah, I
sitting
mean, it
right in
would make the
Indiana.
most sense. I
Yeah,
actually think I'm pretty sure they play in the Big Ten for hockey, and
I think
and
so
then they
too.
play in
ACC for
ACC for
basketball.
basketball, and then they've been independents forever in football. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
it makes no sense. It would make sense for them to just join one of the leagues, but obviously they're making a business decision and trying to make the most revenue in specific leagues. Because, for example, if they join the SEC for all their sports, where the hell's their hockey team going to play? I mean, it's not really a SEC sport.
Right.
But yeah, I think either they're going to come down to a decision to stay independent and continue with that, or I can see them officially joining something. I think that's going to be the next thing that comes down the pipeline.
Mhm.
Either that or the Big 12 like making a move to add more teams to replace Texas and Oklahoma.
This is definitely a slippery slope to kind of wrap the topic. It's definitely a slippery slope. I think there are
Yeah.
teams that like Notre Dame that will eventually join a conference here. Does it affect other sports? We don't know. Does it affect regions? We don't know. So that's what I'll be looking out for next time.
Yeah. And then finally, I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but the NIL impact has been crazy. I mean, to see people like Bryce Young has not even taken a snap for Alabama, not even a snap, and he's making triple digits. Like, what the fuck is going
Well, you
on?
got guys, that kid that Ohio State commit Quinn.
Quinn Ewers,
Quinn Ewers?
yeah,
Yeah, like he's probably joining college early purely in the fact to make money. I mean, the
make
kid
money.
obviously, yeah. I mean, Mikey Williams, same thing in basketball too. Like those kids are going, they're going to make money right away, and it's something that has again been on the forefront of college athletics for a long time. I'm just very curious to know as far as those non-revenue generating sports, and I come from a family that is really big in that industry. Like that's something that they have to question. What happens to men's tennis, men's golf? Obviously, this is something that like I did see. Barstool, for example, they were sponsoring some of those at whatever. I don't know.
They're not making any money
right,
off of it. No.
but promoting their likeness, whatever it is that they're getting. There's college wrestlers, there's college tennis players, golfers, volleyball players. Like that's fantastic. But for the schools like Alabama, and what happens to those programs. So that's probably where I'm the most curious to see where this goes. So I think it's great for those athletes for sure.
I'm in the same boat. Like it's great for the athletes. I think that they deserve to have this ability. I mean, let's not mention the fact we might get NCAA football back, which is great for us.
Thankfully, yeah.
And I am worried about like the locker room situation. I think like it's going to come down to a point where these quarterbacks and big time running backs and wide receivers are going to be getting sponsorship deals and selling a ton of merchandise.
But
And
how does that differ from the NFL? You got Patrick Mahomes who's making $450 million, and that's
it's
the
true.
problem. The problem is, I would say, is these kids some of them haven't paid their
But
dues
they're
yet.
kid. I guess
Yeah,
that's the difference. Is
like
they're kids.
a freshman coming in and making that money versus a senior who's been grinding his ass off an offensive line. Alex Leather, well, he's in the NFL now, but like guys like on Alabama offensive line, you see this kid coming in, he's like, he's got listen, but it's at the same time, it's an unspoken thing. It's not really unspoken, but that quarterback better take care of his offensive lineman. That's I'm sure the offensive lineman.
And I've seen that. I believe it was Derek King has actually out of Miami. He's made like a ton of money and gotten a lot of sponsorship deals. I think he made a deal so like his entire team gets like 10% of his sponsorship deals, which is awesome for him. And maybe we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just like an initial concern of mine.
Those quarterbacks will take care of the offensive lineman if they know what's good for them. That's just a fact. That's the NFL. It's college football. They will do that for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll switch over. Obviously, in a future episode, we'll dive more into like the upcoming season, some of the big games, who we think is going to do well this season. It's going to be an exciting one. Some fans will be back in the areas, some tailgating. It'll be a great season, really exciting, and a lot of good teams. that are like rebuilding. Alabama obviously lost a lot of guys. The refresh, but it'll be a fun year, and we'll dive more into that later. One of the big storylines over the past week has been obviously the NBA free agency and the draft. There was a lot of movement this year, and a lot of teams bringing guys to try to make that next step. We saw the Bucks, have a great season, and it showed these other teams that they need to make moves to compete, and whether that's through the draft or the free agency. And we saw a lot of teams make moves. So just wanted to, talk about that and go over like a couple of the people that we thought like won the free agency draft period, and then some of the losers. So, and I'm sure we'll have some debates on this. But if you want to start off with one of your winners, we can kind of dive into that.
I mean, I think, I don't want to be too biased, so I'm not going to start with the Bulls. But I mean, my big winner really is the Detroit Pistons. I think that they're a winner from the draft lottery stuff. I think Cade Cunningham is a franchise-changing player. I think they did excellent with the rest of their picks. Got Luke Garza. I think there's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not like too. Problem with
he's got to solidify his interior defense because he can't guard a four. He can't he's basically you got to get whatever version of Brook Lopez you're going to get from him. If he can extend his range to 3-point line. He's not the most mobile guy, but if he can extend that range and guard the rim, and Brook Lopez obviously did not come in the league as an interior defender, then obviously that's something that he can improve. I think that is a franchise changing draft pick as well to go with a guy like Cade Cunningham, and I'm going to go back because. He literally, watching him, he was the best prospect I've seen.
Don't get me wrong. I think Cade Cunningham is fantastic. Obviously, slam dunk, number one pick. My problem with them is like with Garza, I feel like he has a really high floor, but the upside is just like not there. And they're a team that is just so young. And for them to like make some moves, like they re-signed Corey Joseph, they, brought in Trey Lyles and Kelly Olynyk and all like these older guys on bigger contracts. Like, let the younger guys get some playing time. Like,
and they will. Like Sadiq Bey will get his time. Like Luke Garza will get his time. Like these guys, their picks will get their time. Isaiah Livers, even I liked him out of Michigan, obviously. But
see, that was a good pick. I think he's high upside. They can like build him out and make him a better player and have a slower process.
I want to go back to Cade a little bit because I think his game will make these guys better because he's a guy that takes over the game on both ends of the floor, and that's something that you need in this league. And you like everyone said, the point guard's the most important position in the league. It's not. It's a guy that can take over the game on both ends, like a guy like Kawhi Leonard, a Giannis essentially. We see what we saw in the playoffs. LeBron. These guys are bigger guys. They're wings. Cade's 6'7". He's a point guard. He can shoot. He shot 40% from three. Like he's got. He's got and if you watch Oklahoma State, there were times where he literally took over the game, like offense, and then the next defensive possession back to offense. Like, and that's something
you're trying to sell me on the number one pick in the draft.
Well, no. So the reason why I think like guys like Luke Garza, for example, or guys like Isaiah Livers, Garza, for example, he's a very strong pick and roll player. They didn't run he's got the ability to off a switch to get into the paint. And he's not going to play above the rim like a DeAndre Ayton will, but he'll pick him if he extends his range. He'll be able to pick and pop, and he'll be able to, obviously he's got a solid finishing ability. Again, defense is the biggest thing with him, which can come. He's not going to guard anyone on the perimeter, but he can. And on offense, he can extend that range. That's a solid pick and pop, play for a couple of years now.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to watch them. I think they have a lot of great young pieces. It's just about like how can they like figure everything and work everything out together to find the right core. I mean, obviously they're still like 2 or 3 years away from competing based on like what moves they make and who they get in future drafts, but yeah, I think they have a lot of great young pieces. So
I mean, I'm a Killian Hayes guy as well. I think
he's great.
I think he's very good. I'm very curious to see how he's going to play off of Cade. Sadiq Bey as well. I think he obviously came out of nowhere. He was really exciting for him. And they got a lot of these young guys that played fairly well. And I think that's kind of where we'll see the development. We'll see Cade Cunningham make these guys better. And that's what point guards should do. So we'll see how that works. So that's why I have them as one of my winners.
I'm going to go with the Hornets. I thought they did a great job both in the draft and with their free agency and with the trade. So they moved Zeller and they got Mason Plumlee and the 37th pick for just their 57th pick. So obviously it was a dump for Detroit to try to get rid of that contract. And then obviously Zeller signed somewhere else. And the contract's not bad. I mean, Plumlee almost averaged a double-double last year, and I think he's a better player than Zeller. He's great defensively, helps on the boards, and he's actually a pretty good he's a solid playmaker. So I think he fits well with LaMelo, and I think that's the biggest thing is they know who their biggest piece is, and they're trying to find people to fit around him. And I think the teams that did that did a great job in the draft and free agency because they knew who they needed to fill around. And LaMelo is obviously a great player and their future, and they needed to find people to fit around him. I think they got a steal in James Bouknight at 11. A lot of people thought he was going to go before that. Mm-hmm. He's a great scorer. He's going to start on the bench this year, but Rozier is a unrestricted free agent next year. So I think he could end up in the
starting. They'll be happy to see that contract go. They'll be happy to see Terry's contract go.
Yeah. Scary Terry, his contract is pretty scary.
It's pretty fun.
And they somehow got rid of Devontae Graham too. I like Devontae Graham. He's not a bad player, but I think at some point you just got to move on from him for some younger talent. And then they got Kai Jones at 19. They moved up to get him. A lot of people thought they were going to take him at 11. So for them to be able to go back up into the later first round and get a guy for their front court to play behind Plumlee to start off is great. And then they got JT Thor as part of that trade and then signed Ish Smith for their backcourt on the bench for a pretty small deal. I think they filled all the needs that they had in their front court and then getting some scoring off the bench. I think they're set up pretty well. I mean, they got absolutely murdered by the Pacers in the play-in tournament. But I think they're a team that can, go for that 6th through 8th spot in the Eastern Conference and compete next year. Obviously, they're not going to be a title contender, but I thought they had a great draft and free agency.
And I think with great transition there, give me a loser. Give me a loser from this offseason so far.
Okay, so I've just talked about a team that did a good job of placing guys around their star player in LaMelo Ball. And these two teams, I think, did a pretty poor job of doing that with their stars. So I'm going to package them together a little bit. Pelicans and Mavericks. I'm just not sure what the Pelicans' long-term plan is. I mean, Zion and Ingram basically came out and said they love Lonzo Ball. They wanted him back. They pretty much got nothing for him. They took on Satoransky and Garrett Temple's shitty-ass contracts.
In a second.
Just in a second-round pick. And Lonzo's a great player. I don't really understand that. I don't hate Devontae Graham, as I just mentioned. I think he's a good player, but they overpaid him, and he's a worse player than Lonzo. Valanciunas, good spacing on the floor. That one I'm fine with. I thought that was a solid trade. But Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones in the draft, I'm just not high on them. I thought that they just aren't doing a good job of finding people around Zion, and it's been very clear that him and his team have come out and said, if we don't have the right situation for us when the contract is up, we're heading elsewhere. And the Knicks have been brought up for him to go to, and I just think they're not doing enough to try and put pieces around him for them to compete. Obviously, they weren't going to do anything that was going to make them an immediate title contender this year, but they just didn't do anything that stuck out to me to make their team that much better. And that would be something that Zion would be overly thrilled about. And then obviously with the Mavs, a little bit the Trailblazers too. Doncic, Lillard, great players. Obviously need some other pieces around there. the Tim Hardaway Jr. contract was terrible for the Mavericks. 4 years, $72 million. Jesus.
And it cost them Josh Richardson too.
They lost Josh Richardson, replaced him with Reggie Bullock, and then they had no draft picks this year, and they made no attempt to try to get into the draft, and they lost out on the Lowry sweepstakes. They tried to get Rashawn Holmes, and if he's resigning back in Sacramento instead of going to Dallas with Luka, obviously they weren't doing enough to try and get him. And we just saw this morning what Luka can do. I mean, he had a triple-double against France in the Olympics. Like, the guy is crazy. He's like the next big thing, and he has been for the past year and a half. And they just made no attempt to like try and secure more people. Their team is basically going to look exactly the same, and it might honestly be worse. I don't know. It was a shitty offseason so far for them.
Yeah, no, I think my losers kind of go on the same theme. I'm taking the Celtics and the Bucks. I think start with the Celtics. You've had this young core of Tatum and Brown, and obviously the big win for them this offseason is unloading the contract at Kemba Walker. That fit just didn't seem to work.
But then they took on Horford.
Well, the Al Horford contract definitely hampers any type of moves that they can make. But they bring in some other pieces like a Josh Richardson, but. They're still missing that guy, and I think and they're missing that point guard that to help them out. And obviously, we're going to rely on Jason Tatum then, to be making those plays. Or is it going to be now with Chris Dunn or Peyton Pritchard? I mean, I think Peyton Pritchard did impress in his first year out of Oregon. I think I was a Peyton Pritchard guy at Oregon, but no draft.
I think
picks.
him and Aaron Naismith have to take a huge step up.
I think we've seen the best from Naismith. I think we've seen the best from I think we've seen we know what he is. I think we've seen the same thing from Romeo Langford. Like those guys are just. So
you're saying you're not a big Grant Williams guy?
I mean, listen. I think Grant Williams. They're going to turn Grant Williams into Semi Ojeleye. Basically, their guy. They're undersized, big, who's just going to get down and get gritty. But I think they're big. They need size. Is Robert Williams going to be – Robert Williams and Inez Kanter, are they going to be your rim protectors? That's been their biggest weakness, and that's what Brad Stevens wants. When they traded Daniel Tice, he was their rock.
Tristan Thompson.
Tristan Thompson, I think that's a loss that they don't really miss. But Al Horford, he's a great perimeter defender, but he's not blocking it. He's not disrupting any shots at the rim unless it's like one-on-one off a drive.
They're basically a team that they're just going to try and score a shitload and then just hope.
Which is not Brad Stevens basketball. If we learn anything, it's not Brad Stevens basketball. Well,
as we saw, he took over like the GM duties, and I just was very low on that. I don't know why they decided to do that, but.
I'm not the biggest fan of these coaches stepping into front office roles like that. We saw Flip Saunders do that, RIP, but we've seen that happen, and it's not been the most successful in the NBA. I think one thing that they are going to have to do is they got to perfect what they did back, when Horford was there. I mean, I saw rumors they're going to bring back Isaiah Thomas. I saw rumors that they're going to bring back, Jeff Green's obviously gone, but basically, and that's the same with the Milwaukee Bucks now. Is what did they do to improve? I think. For the Milwaukee Bucks, congrats on the championship. But this was the year to do it because you've seen the Nets get better. You've seen the Lakers get better. They're coming for that. They're getting it healthy. They're going to get better, which they did. And obviously they've got the LeBron effect. But the Bucks they needed to get better. And they lost. Their defense was what won them the championship, and they lost one of their better defenders, PJ Tucker.
Yeah, PJ Tucker.
Drew Holiday's a great defender. Chris Middleton's a great defender. Giannis is a great defender. But I
gotta say that was their run in the sun. 100%. That was their.
Well, remember in
1971,
they won in between two dynasties. They won in between the Celtics and the Lakers. They split that up, and that was kind of their chance to win it. Then this was their chance to win it now. So it's very much history repeated itself for the Bucks, and it's really awesome. Giannis really cemented his legacy. I think that. But for them, they see these teams make improvements, and their best offseason acquisition was Rodney Hood. That's not you lose PJ Tucker, you get Rodney Hood. I mean, you got
I like the George. They signed George Hill too. I don't mind.
They brought him back from the team the previous season. I mean, that's what but he also shot Are we gonna get that 55% 3-point shooter that George Hill was in 2019? No, but no. And if it does, by all means, Ultic expose me, but. you're gonna get Dante DiVincenzo healthy. Is he gonna be a difference maker on the defensive end? No. I mean, Semi Ojeleye, I mean Bobby Portis, like these guys, they needed to get better.
I did
They
like
needed to add.
them re-signing Portis, and it was a pretty
Yeah,
good deal. That
he's
was
an
a good
energy
one. But
he's an energy guy, but Bobby Portis can give you 10 and 15 and 10 one night, and then 2 and 5 the next. And that's coming from a guy who watched a lot of Bobby Portis for the Bulls. So love Bobby, love the energy he brings. But did you really get better as a team this offseason? Giannis getting healthy will be it, but he played an exceptional hurt. So
it's exactly what you were talking about too. Like if you look at the offseason, just their offseason, it's not like terrible. They stay pretty much the same. Lost Tucker, brought some scoring depth on the bench. It's not terrible, but when you match it up against the Heat and the Bulls and other teams that they're going to be competing against for that title, then it starts to look bad, including the Celtics. Like the two of them watched other teams get better as they kind of stayed the same or died off a little bit and got rid of some pieces that would be helpful for them. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, we might as well talk about the Bulls. I mean, I know you're biased about it, but they were one of my winners too. I got to be honest. I thought they did a great job. They got a high volume shooter to match up with the scoring talent of Levine and Vucevic, who can put up big numbers. He's gonna chuck threes for sure.
Who?
Oh, DeRozan.
Well, no. So this is what I'm gonna correct you. Is DeMar DeRozan is a free throw shooter. The DeMar DeRozan is a mid-range
volume shooter.
He's a mid-range. Yeah, so he's gonna be. He is a good compliment. The fact that he's gonna take a little bit off Levine when he's on the court, and then when I'm sure at some point they're gonna have some sets where Levine is on and DeRozan's off. DeRozan's on. Like DeRozan is a free throw shoot. Like he'll get to the line. He's gonna be. What Jimmy Butler was for the Bulls was a great defender and a guy that got to the line. And I think that's something that the Bulls are going to get from DeRozan here. Obviously, he's not the athlete that he was, but yeah, that's a great pickup for them. Lonzo Ball is the pure point guard, the pure pick and roll point guard that's going to work amazing with Nikola Vucevic. And he's going to be a great defender. Caruso is a good defender. Like he's a good defender too.
Their defense got immensely better.
So I got three things for the Bulls, and it's gonna be very quick with this. What's gonna happen to Lauri Markkanen? Is Patrick Williams gonna take that next step to what he's supposed to be? And he's 19, 20 years old. He's got the highest ceiling probably of last year's draft, year's draft with Lonzo. It's what version of Kawhi Leonard are we gonna get of him? And then the third question is how much they've got trade capital now. They've got the trade exception they picked up from the Rockets. They've got Kobe White. They've got other pieces from the former regime that they can move. What can we get with that? What's that next piece that they're going to get? So
I'm sure they try to get rid of Markkanen. Obviously,
well, he's a restricted free agent, and I know the Hornets actually just made an offer sheet for him from what I'm reading. So he didn't fit in the system. Do they pay the guy? I mean, is he a piece you pick up and sign? I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, and one of the underrated ones of their signings were Tony Bradley. I actually like him a lot as a backup.
Great interior defender too.
Yeah, I think he's a good compliment off the bench for Vucevic. And the biggest thing is Zach LaVine is a UFA next year. Mm-hmm. And, these moves are going to be something that's going to, raise his eyes and be like, you know what, maybe I do want to stay in Chicago. To obviously Vucevic bringing in him was a big move for them, but this probably makes LaVine want to stay more. But yeah, they had a good one. And then I'll just stay in the Eastern Conference. I think the Hawks, I'll go over quick. I think you're not going to look at it and be like, holy shit, they had a crazy offseason. They picked up all these guys and stuff. But they had the best young core in the Eastern Conference. Like, let's not lie. And they had a great run. And they had a great extension for Trey. A lot of people thought they were going to lose John Collins. He stayed, and it was a pretty fair deal. Okongwu, who they got in the draft last year, he's hurt. He's going to be out till December. So they picked up Gorgie Dang just to fill in as a piece behind their starting lineup just while Okongwu's out. And then I actually picked them as a winner even before they got Lou Williams back again, who's a great scoring off the bench. And I thought they had a great draft. Look, they have a lot of pieces that can play forward. I don't know your thoughts on Jalen Johnson, but I think he has a lot of upside. Obviously, very volatile. He could be a bust, but it does remind me a lot of the situation with Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a high pick, kind of fell down, has a lot of high upside. He's a great threat in pick and roll. He needs to work on his defense. It sounds a lot like MPJ. I think the good thing with them is they have so many pieces at the forward position, and they can mix and match and try a bunch of different people, and it'll give those guys like DeAndre Hunter and people like Jalen Johnson a chance to kind of build themselves out and take some time. And then I think Sharif Cooper was a steal for them at 48. He was supposed to go in the first round at one point. People were saying he's the best passer in the draft, and he's a great floor general. So when Trey's off the floor, I think he can do a good job. Obviously, it's going to be DeLon Wright for a little bit, but I think eventually Sharif Cooper will come back in. I think the biggest thing is they won because they kept John Collins. I think he's a huge piece for them, and that was a big save for them.
The Hawks have won 2 off seasons in a row. The Hawks, I think they've won 2 off seasons in a row. I think, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals because of it. Now, what's the next step for them? I mean, they could probably be back there for all I know.
Yeah. Did you have one more winner?
I mean, I was going to touch on the Magic. I think that obviously that no bias with them either. But the fact that Jalen Suggs fell to them at 5 is unbelievable. I actually had him taking Barnes and Bouknight. I was at 5 and 8. I think both those filled the needs. I mean, for what they were going for, and they ended up with Franz Wagner at 8, who actually I could probably see playing some G League ball for a little bit just because of roster like who's on that roster right now and just development stages for him. But Jalen Suggs arguably could have been a top 3 pick. Evan Mobley is obviously really good for that 3rd pick, and Jalen Green. I watched a ton of G League just working the bubble, and that kid is a real deal.
I think there was a big fall off after those 3.
So you're not a Suggs guy.
No, I think Suggs is great. My problem is I think he's just a very high floor guy, and I think guys like Jalen Green and Evan Mobley and obviously Cade have like really high upside. I think Scotty has a decent amount of upside. I'm just like with the Magic, I'm just not exactly sure what like their plan is. Like I just don't.
Their plan is essentially what the Denver Nuggets used to be back when they didn't have a superstar, but they had a ton of guys. Suggs has the highest upside. I think of all these guys. Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac's got. He's going to be the great defender that he is. Mo Bamba. That one's almost you almost want to punt that one soon. Wendell Carter I think was an excellent pickup for them. RJ Hampton, I love RJ Hampton. I think he's actually more than Michael.
So my problem is like you have RJ Hampton, you have Cole Anthony, you have
you can mix and match. You can mix and match. These are guys. This is the NBA is positionless basketball. You had Giannis playing the 5 for a reason.
So you think they're just gonna play like everybody like 20 minutes and just see what they have?
No, I mean you're gonna have your guys. You're gonna have Jonathan Isaac is probably gonna come back slowly this year. Jalen Suggs is probably gonna get Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs are probably gonna get the bulk of the minutes at the guard at the 1 position.
You think Markel's done?
No, I think Fultz is your combo guard. He's gonna play 1 and 2. He was great off the ball at Washington. Obviously, the shot is not what it used to be, but he was excellent off the ball. That's why he's number 1 pick. And and he's a great defender too. You got RJ Hampton who can essentially slide to the 3 if you want to play 3 guards. If you want to go Hampton, Fultz, Cole Anthony, I mean you absolutely can, or Jalen Suggs in that you absolutely can. They're going to mix and match a ton. Chuma Okeke came on pretty well. I think he's going to have a good second year leap. I think. I think they'll have lineups where they play Isaac at the 5. And they just run up and down the court. I think, and you got Jamal Mosley. You got Jamal Mosley coming in from, he's obviously coached everywhere, but I think he's going to want to run. These kids are young. These kids can fly. You got Jonathan Isaac at the 5, and I think the possibilities are endless with that team.
Look, I know you're a Michigan fan, but Wagner. I just think he's like a.
I'm not high on him. As a draft prospect. Okay. I'm not high on him either.
Shit. I was about to sell you on why I think he sucks. Why take him at 8?
I thought Mitchell was probably the better pick for him. I think as far as getting another defender, I think even though he's 24 years old, I thought he was. And the Kings obviously love their 24-year-old.
He's killing it in summer league. I mean, it's summer league, but
I think he would have been a good pick. I mean, obviously, again, they got Suggs, so they probably needed a kind of a 3-4 man. But
Mitchell can play at 3 if he really has to.
I mean, who else? Who was picking a 10? What was his name? Wow, I'm blanking on his name, but he was. I'm blanking on his name right now. I'm looking it up right now. Went to the Grizzlies. Zaire Williams, I think would have been a solid pick there too.
I don't like him either.
Yeah. I just think,
or like just take a guy like, that has like a really high upside, like maybe move back and get someone like Jalen Johnson. Move back and get someone that has that ability to be.
I think once you get Suggs at 5, I think you do, like you said, trade back. I think that's probably what they should have done. But they got Franz Wagner. We'll see what happens with him. And they got both Wagner brothers, here in Orlando. So we'll see what happens.
All right, real quick, I have to touch on this loser. The Spurs. What the fuck are they doing? I mean, like, I love Greg Popovich. He's a great coach. And I mean,
he's out the door. He's out the door.
He is out the door. He's struggled a little bit with Team USA, but I feel like they always do to start it out, and then they're going to end up winning like gold. But the Josh Primo pick was so random. He's like one of the youngest players ever picked, so maybe that's what they see in him. Like he could be a high upside, but he was like a 6th or 7th scoring option for Alabama this year. And to go with him at 12, like they could have easily moved back and got him. Like he was supposed to be like a late first rounder. I didn't get that. And then they signed Doug McDermott for 3 years.
He got paid.
That man got paid. And he's like a glorified he's just gonna shoot a lot of threes. Like I mean, he did have a good season in Indiana, but
shooting is very valuable in the league. That's.
But what is
there's no doubt.
Like they are not gonna compete for a title right now. Like you might as well just try to give the young guys like a ton of time.
Well, I mean, you have guys like you got Murray there. You've got these young guys that you want to try to build around. I mean, listen, Murray's a free agent next year too. So,
and I like Keldon Johnson. He's a great player. But like to bring in like guys like Zach Collins, Doug McDermott, and then they traded for in the DeRozan trade they got Thad Young and Al-Farouq Aminu
and 2 seconds and a first. They got.
Dude, that's.
As a Bulls fan, that's fantastic. Take off for I haven't seen him in a Bulls uniform in ever, so I don't miss that.
Dude, if you would have told me, even out of college when he was at Creighton, even out of college, if you would have ever told me that Doug McDermott was going to make $42 million over
there's a reason why my name is Embry McBuckets, by the way. There is a reason why my name is Embry McBuckets.
Did you like Doug McDermott that much?
I mean, absolutely. The Bulls drafted Doug McDermott. They traded Gary Harris. They traded Gary Harris and Josef Nurkic for Doug McDermott back. And by the way, the president of the team was the one who made the trade against the Bulls for the Nuggets. I'm not gonna try to pronounce his name because that's terrible, but he's the one who finessed the Bulls into giving them those 2 picks for Doug McDermott. And I'm like, I have to be all in on Doug McDermott. He's playing with Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler, Joakim Noah, Carlos Boozer. Like he's gonna be that guy. Nope.
Ugh,
nope.
I lost.
But listen, he's got a role. This was all first of all, this was back in 2012. So this is the thing. But he's got a role. He's a shooter. He's the shooter that everyone needs. A sharp, like everyone needs. Everyone needs. Kyle Korver played till he's 39 for a reason. So, get your Kyle Korver on, Doug McDermott.
Yeah, I mean, hey, all respect to him to get that much money. I mean, but I don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's pretty crazy. And I guess real quick, we should probably touch on the Lakers. I mean, we have to touch on LeBron. I don't even think we really
have to touch on it. We knew what LeBron was. LeBron loses in the first round. He's got to get healthy. He has his movie premiere. He's gonna get his guys. I mean, Melo, Westbrook. I mean, they dumped. Yeah, this was inevitable. This Thanos snaps his fingers. That this was inevitable.
Before they signed like Monk and Anthony and Kendrick Nunn, I was like, what are they doing? Like they signed like Ariza and like
Monk is Deion Waiters 2.0. So I'm not sure LeBron's gonna be very happy with
no,
Malik
he's
Monk.
terrible. But
So
like at least they have like some shooters. Like a bunch of them are gonna have like open threes, and they need to make them instead of the team that they had this year. I mean, I like Kendrick Nunn. I think Carmelo's still a good shooter, and he's gonna have his opportunities.
Carmelo's gonna play very well with LeBron. I mean, they're
Yeah,
gonna play pickup together. So they're
and
great.
I love that they kept Taylor Horton Tucker. I like him. He's a great player.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Wizards, they actually had a pretty good. I mean, I would consider them possibly a winner too. They got some good pieces. The biggest thing is that the Lakers defense is going to take a huge hit. I mean,
oh yeah, no doubt.
Caruso was the lifeblood of that team. Kuzma was a pretty good defender.
They weren't. They also weren't great. Like Montrezl Harrell is not a great defender. Like that.
No.
Kyle Kuzma, not a great defender. KCP,
No, he's not bad though.
Okay.
KCP was the best defender on the team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're gonna try to outscore you, and LeBron's just gonna hopefully keep it close, and LeBron is supposed to close it out. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers, we got Russell Westbrook now. You got it's he got the band back together to win the Western Conference, and to go against the Nets. I mean, if barring health, like that's the big thing with this. But you got the Cavs and the Warriors again, part 2. So. I mean, hopefully the Warriors get healthy and they contend. I think Jonathan Kuminga is a great pick. Jonathan Weissman's an awesome player.
Moses Moody.
Moses Moody is a great pickup. Former G League guy. No, sorry, not Moses. I'm sorry. I'm thinking. Never mind. Another Moody from Kentucky that played in Kentucky that played on the Warriors last year. But the Warriors got guys. Hopefully they're healthy. So yeah, like I said, the Lakers are. Hopefully the Lakers and Nets they all stay healthy and we get what we're asking.
I am sure we'll talk about them at some point again.
Exactly.
So we don't have to beat it into a dead horse. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. I mean, we talked about the Bulls. I feel like we have to talk about the Cubs. This is
going to be a long episode, so we might as well just get everything out in the open right now, and then lock it in for the long haul because we got a long season ahead of us. So,
I mean, I feel like we talked about the NBA.
Yeah.
The MLB trade deadline was nuts. I mean, 10 All-Stars were traded. Every single MLB team made a move. I mean, it was nuts. I mean, every single second that I was sitting like working, I was getting like a notification about another trade. Like it was crazy. I mean, what's your reaction coming off of, I know like your 3 core guys got traded from your team that won the World Series. Like, what was your reaction immediately, and how are you feeling like now that you've like stepped back from it a little bit?
I actually think stepping back made it worse for me. I knew it was inevitable. I'm dead serious. Like I knew like going into this, the second that we stunk it up in June, we had a great May. Cubs had a great May. In June was just the pits. I mean, they fell off. Everyone got hurt. I mean, they're starting rotations. Jake Arrieta's 5-11 now, and he's got an 80 ERA, whatever it is. Like they were not.
You should have known when you re-signed him that was not going to go over well.
Well, I thought it was going to be an experiment. I think the thing was with the Cubs and Tom Ricketts said it best. This is not a 2012 rebuild. In 2012 they were bad for 2011 until 2015 they were bad, or 2014 they were bad.
They're horrible. Yeah.
So, I knew it was coming. They didn't re-sign these guys. These guys are all free agents at the end of the year. I was clamoring for Javi Baez to get traded, to be honest, last year because I think you got to get the most for him. They got a lot for him from the Mets. They got their number 5 or number 9 prospect who's got one of the higher upsides in that system.
Yeah, I feel like they got a lot from the Mets, but from the Giants and the Yankees wasn't great.
Well, the Yankees was okay. I said the Mets are probably the best return. The Yankees were desperate, so they went buck wild as the Yankees do, and the Cubs did okay. But again, these are all 1-year contract guys. They're rentals. So I mean, the Craig Kimbrel deal. To be honest, like it stinks in my opinion. Like they could have gotten Tyler Glass now from the Rays for Bryant and prospects as well. Like that's a guy I'd want, especially if we're going to punt this year. But it was inevitable.
Well, not now that he has Tommy John.
I mean, every pitcher has Tommy John. Like every pitcher's got at least 8 Tommy Johns. So my thing with the Cubs is it was inevitable, and there's a little part of me that thinks, Rizzo and Bryant come back because I think those are the 2 most valuable pieces.
Really?
Yeah, Baez is going to – there's the next 2 years, there's like 8 shortstops that are going to be free, all top free agents. So, this year's you've got, Baez, you had Lindor, Correa, Seager. Next year you got Turner, Story. Like there's guys that are out there. So, and the Cubs got a bunch of short, like Nico Horner is supposed to be this, the Cubs are going back to some contact hitting with Horner and Nick Madrigal, who they got in the Kimbrel trade, but it's inevitable. You got to get what you can get for these guys instead of first round picks. So if you don't resign them, again, like I said, I do think part of me does hope that they do pick up these guys again, but at the same time, if you want to offload a contract, you might have to trade guys like Wilson Contreras. Like if you package Jason Hayward and Wilson Contreras together, and you get, whatever return you can, like how the Red Sox traded Mookie and David Price. I think it's what they're going to have to do. Does that start another rebuild? I don't think so. But I don't think
you need to do like a full rebuild, but somewhat of a partial one.
Listen, if I want to go in and start,
you don't have to go the Pirates route.
Well, if I want to start a franchise, that'll be the show. First move I'm doing is I'm trading Wilson, I'm trading Jason Hayward. I'm re-signing Chris Bryant. I'm re-signing Anthony Rizzo.
Is this what you were doing before?
Nick Castellanos is going to opt out. I'm re-signing him, get him back in the Cubs because he was the best Cub literally in those 6 months or those 3 months. And the Cubs are back. And they have a ridiculously young pitching staff they got to bring up. Get rid of Zach Davies. Get rid of Jake Arrieta. Get rid of garbage. So, listen.
Why don't we talk about teams that are actually going to compete this year?
I can name a loser right now. The first one comes to mind. I want to start there is the Boston Red Sox. I mean, look how bad they've been since the trade deadline. They got Kyle Schwarber, who's not going to play until September.
That was interesting.
And they didn't make any moves. And you got the Rays pick up like Nelson Cruz for dog cheap. And you got the AL East made moves. The Red Sox are hoping their move in the trade deadline is getting Chris Sale back, but
what the hell were the Rockies doing?
I think they tried to sell way too high for Trevor Story.
You think?
Yeah.
And John Gray, why not sell John Gray?
German Marquez as well. Sell high those guys, but I just think they were trying to sell too high.
I think the White Sox had a great trade deadline. I'm excited about their potential. I think they're a team that could be one to watch. I mean, they had to trade Nick Madrigal to the Cubs, but they got Cesar Hernandez to replace him. Obviously, Kimbrel. I mean, their bullpen is sick.
Their bullpen's sick. They've got Luis Robert coming back soon from the IL. They just got Eloy Jimenez back for the first time this season. Yasmani Grandal will be back at the end of August, early September. I mean, they're going to get all their guys. The White Sox are my pick to win the AL. And, as a Chicagoan.
Are you going Dodgers for?
I mean, did you see? If you're a Baseball America guy and you saw what they gave, I mean, they gave up an absolute haul. The Nationals couldn't say no. I mean, we had to deal with the Padres for sure. Nope, give us literally everything. And the Dodgers literally emptied the farm. So, yes, I do think because of that, the Dodgers are the team to beat in the NL. Dodgers, White Sox. And I'll root for the Chicago White Sox in that matchup.
Yeah, the Dodgers are good, but just with everything going on with them, I mean, Kershaw can't stay healthy.
Bauer.
I mean, Bellinger has been terrible recently, and obviously everything going on with Bauer.
Yeah.
And then I think they got Danny Duffy and Cole Hamels for the time being, which
they're going for it, man. They're going for it.
Well, of course they're going for it, and then the Padres try to keep up with them. I just think it's funny that they're going out and getting all these big names, while the Giants are just slowly cruising along with their team that they're
they just had a massive comeback today, obviously against the Diamondbacks, but they were down 4-0, and now it's 5-4 top 10. They got first and third, or 2 outs. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, Diamondbacks.
I think it's going to be a great ending to the season. I think that trade deadline just circled everything up. I mean, obviously the Dodgers are the team to beat, and obviously the reigning champs. But I think there's a lot of teams that could give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
I mean, in a flash pan, the Yankees could just play someone in a series and hit like 500 home runs. They might have like 500 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Also, but at least they have some lefty bats. All right, let's get into the sport that's starting tonight. Pretty excited about it. There's been some big storylines. For example, Carson Wentz going down. There was a hot rumor last night, Deshaun Watson to the Eagles, that got shot down this morning.
I was following that like a hawk for sure.
Just like a lot of QB news coming up. Obviously, there's a lot of QB battles in camp with some rookies. Who do you think is going to be the Indy starter?
I think it is probably going to be Eason. I think they're going to just roll with him. Yeah, I think I'm rooting for Sam Ehlinger. I think that guy is an absolute winner. I think
that came out of left field. They were just like
he was like a 6th-round pick.
About him.
No. Well, he was a 6th-round pick this year, something like that. I think Sam Ehlinger has what it takes to win ball games. He's not the most talented quarterback, but he can win ball games.
This is the thing that the media does with training camp is they'll just be like, someone will make a pass that you should make, or they'll catch a pass that you should catch, and they'll be like, so-and-so is looking amazing in camp. They do this every year.
Yes, of course. I mean, that's what they're – listen, I get updates on Justin Fields doing that, and Andy Dalton throws it to Mary Bird down the seam. I've gotten like 8 of those. Like, I get that. But Sam Ehlinger – I would love for him to take over the reins. I think.
So you don't think they'll try to get Foles?
No, I don't think so. I think if they haven't already, they're not going to. Foles is also being, he's like, I don't want to leave. He just doesn't want to go, and he's just done. I think the Bears are probably his last team.
The opportunity to play with your old OC.
But he's also bounced around. Like, this will be his 3rd team in 3 years. And I think that takes a toll on a guy, especially, winning, being the Super Bowl MVP, then going just bouncing around a bunch. Like, I think it takes a toll on a guy. I mean, some people that's why not everyone becomes a journeyman. Like there's no Edwin Jacksons, who's played for 19 MLB teams in the NFL. So
he's not going to go the Ryan Fitzpatrick.
No, he's not going to Ryan Fitzpatrick. No, I think Foles' last team will be the Bears. I do think that if they do make a trade, the guy Gardner Minshew probably could be a good pickup, but I think Sam Ehlinger could be the guy for a little bit. You know what? I hope he gives Carson Wentz a run for his money when he gets back. I think I'm not big on Eason. I think Eason's just the guy because he's been there longer. But I would love to see Sam Ehlinger be the guy. We've got a lot of Texas talk in this podcast. I hope we get some Texas love after that. Let's go, Sam Ehlinger.
I honestly. The Colts team is awesome. I was kind of disappointed that they're kind of falling at the seams, but it would be cool if one of the two of them just randomly play really well and how funny would it be if Ehlinger is the quarterback from this class? I mean, obviously he's not.
He won't be the quarterback. He will not be the quarterback from this class because there's a ridiculous quarterback class. But I want him to be the quarterback of the Colts. I want him to succeed. He's a guy like. Give me all the not to the extent of Tom Brady, but 6th-round pick. Give me all of that. Give me the fact that people passed on him and he's damn good. I hope so. I really do.
We might as well get into it since we're talking about quarterbacks from this class, and we're an NCAA podcast primarily. I know we talk about everything else, but I feel like we have to talk about some rookies. We're talking about the rookie quarterbacks this year. And both of us are really high on quarterbacks that we think will have an impact on the future of a team the most out of all rookies. Yours is Justin Fields. Mine is Trey Lance. So let's hear the spiel. Let's hear it all.
Well, I want
to. You're going off on the Bulls. You go off on the Cubs.
Listen, I'm having my podcast. We're definitely have to cut a lot of this, but for time. But I will say this: I do want to mention the fact that, as a Bears fan, that we've never had a franchise quarterback. Jay Cutler is the best quarterback in franchise history, but not when we traded up for Mitch Trubisky, that was tough. I wanted Jamal Adams that draft, and all that's happened since our last podcast. Justin Herbert was in college. I was high on Justin Herbert. Look what he is now. Trevor Lawrence is a guy. Like he's still and he was probably my 1A or 1B.
You're trying to take credit for Trevor Lawrence being a good prospect.
No. I'm just no. I'm not. I'm just saying like Trevor Lawrence is like he's got the intangibles. He's got a lot of it, but Justin Fields is gonna be the best quarterback in this class. I think as far as I think a lot of the scouting reports were he needed to be in the right system. He needs to be kind of in that right area. You know, reading defense has been kind of his downfall. I think Matt Nagy's got him in the right. I think this is Matt Nagy's guy. You know, he was given Mitch Trubisky. He was told mold Mitch Trubisky.
Matt Nagy has not shown anything to be like
he
an
did
offensive whiz.
No, I will say there were some signs. He just didn't trust Mitch Trubisky in the slightest. After he got hurt, after that 12-4 season, and Mitch Trubisky got hurt the next year, he didn't trust him at all. And you could tell from the play, it was all checkdowns. It was all, you have two reads, here's check down. And I don't think it was all Mitch Trubisky's fault. I don't think the coaching staff trusted him, to be honest. And I think that really hindered on his play. I think when you do make a move like they did for Justin Fields, and everything that I've seen from camp, everything I've seen, you know, and it is hype. It's all media hype for sure. But Justin Fields absolutely has it. He's got the arm talent. He's got the leadership skills. He's got the mobility. Like my comp to him was Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson I think his ceiling is Russell Wilson. I think he could be just as good, if not better than Russell Wilson.
Look, I can throw all the shit at you. I mean, the games against like top talent in the Big Ten, any big game that he's had, pretty much, other than like the Clemson one, he's kind of
murdered Clemson. He shredded Clemson. Okay. That's a good defense. That's a pro style defense.
Yeah. Look,
was also hurt. Penn State. He was hurt against Penn State. Okay.
You didn't let me finish.
All right.
I said I could throw that at you. And if you look at the stats, really not that bad. Very comparative to like most college quarterbacks against top talent. So I'm not going to throw that at you. I could throw the Ohio State quarterbacks from the past at you. And I'm not going to do that because they're all different quarterbacks. Like, you know, it doesn't matter what happened in the past.
Torrey Smith's not walking the door.
I just have that eye test. He looks for his first read, and that's all he's done at Ohio State. He watches them down, makes that throw, and that's why we've seen the turnover problems. And he struggles when he gets people in the pocket. He doesn't know what to do. His decision-making is kind of disastrous. Now, it's something he can work on. Obviously, he's not going to start right away, especially because Andy Dalton's rocking that visor.
He's had a good camp so far from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Everyone's had a good camp, but Andy Dalton apparently Andy Dalton loves Damari Bird, so we're going to see a lot of Damari Bird from what I'm reading as well. Yeah.
I love it. Honestly, I'll be honest. I love Trey Lance. I think he's going to be a great player. He's not going to start right away. Jimmy G, like Andy Dalton, has looked really good in camp, and so it doesn't look like he's going to start. Might not start the whole season, but I think in the future, I think Trey Lance is a great prospect. He's a young guy. He just has like the prototypical like fit for a quarterback right now. Like he has looked really great in camp. People are raving about him. And I just think he is a stud. I think he's a great player. I mean, we've mentioned it multiple times. Like, this is a great QB class. Like, I think a few of them could turn out to be really, really good players.
Is it all time? Where do you stack it up to the Marino class? Where do you stack it up?
That's a good one. Obviously, the Roethlisberger, Manning, Rivers class is really good. I think it's just it takes time. Like, people were talking like crazy about class last year with Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Jalen Hurts, like potentially Jordan Love if Rodgers leaves. Like, people talk a lot about that. I think it's just one of those things like you don't know until, you know, you give it a few years. I think people are rushing to make judgments on these quarterbacks when they're so young. And it's just like you need to get like the NFL is so crazy about rushing quarterbacks and like having them be immediately good. And if they're not, they ship them out and they try to find a new one. I think we need to get back to the days where, you know, like you ease people into their role and give them more time. And you could see some of these guys that have like floundered out to be like actually good players after a while. Like, who knows? Like, I think Dwayne Haskins could learn under like Ben and he has the talent. It's there. He just needs to like focus and like work on it.
Well, I'll ask you this. I think there is two ways to look at it. There's Matt Nagy. He's been very vocal about Andy Dalton's our guy, Andy Dalton's our guy, Andy Dalton's our guy. Everyone in the media, all Bears fans are going to want to see Justin Fields. Matt Nagy's on a 1-year contract right now, and so is Ryan Pace.
Yeah,
Matt Nagy was also there for Patrick Mahomes, and that's what the Alex Smith Patrick Mahomes 2017, where Alex Smith started every game.
If they're not doing well, they need to put him in.
Right, and I think that what Nagy sometimes thinks he's way too smart or way smarter than he really is, and I think that's where we see some of those like offensive like hiccups, whatever, and not utilizing his weapons right. But I think this is a situation he's going to be on a tightrope on, because there is pressure to win now. There is a lot of pressure to win now, but Justin Fields, and at least from what we've written down, who's got the biggest impact from the rookie class, it is Justin Fields, but it's long term. Justin Fields, there are some things he's got to work on. And Andy Dalton, I'm buying into the fact that Andy Dalton's going to play at least probably the first half of the season. They got a really tough schedule too. You got the Rams in LA for week 1, then you Cincinnati, LA, or no, sorry, Las Vegas. Like they've got a hard schedule in the beginning. And those 2 games I mentioned are the easy ones, but I think Bears fans, we got to be patient. We're going to get Justin Fields. We're going to get him. We do have to win ball games this year. But I do think Justin Fields is going to be the best quarterback in this class. And I will say this about your Trey Lance take. Jimmy Garoppolo's been playing well, but I've seen Trey Lance has missed 1 throw. So he's been impressive from what I've understood. So I was never the biggest Trey Lance guy because of my scars with Mitch Trubisky. The guy played 1 game his senior year. Mitch Trubisky played 16 games throughout college. Like there is something to do with inexperience. So maybe it is good to kind of sit him for a while.
It gives him time that Jimmy's still there,
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. But yeah, I think we both got some good picks for the long haul, and I think this is a good time to transition to the near future. Rookies are obviously got to make football's a very turnkey sport. You're gonna get guys that are gonna produce right away, and who are gonna be your guys that really jump in the mix right now.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick and simple. 2 teams that their defense were like putrid last year, and they got some good rookie players that can slot in real quick. Caleb Farley, he lost his mother and he's had some injury problems, but I still think he's going to be back in time for the first game of the season. They need him bad. They lost both of their corners from last year, who they were terrible anyways. So no big deal, but he's going to play that number 2 role. And I think he's a great player. They got a steal in him at number 22 in the draft. And then I think Micah Parsons is insane. I mean, there's a reason why he sat out. He should have probably gone higher than he did. But the Cowboys got a great pick in him. One of his biggest concerns was pass coverage, and apparently he's worked on it a lot and has looked good in practice. Obviously, no, it's practice. But apparently he's been all over the field. He's a great player. He can play like both ways, rush the passer, back up. I think the Cowboys have a great linebacking core, and they can like kind of mix and match with them and do great things. So I think they could both make a huge impact for those defenses that really need it this year.
Love both those guys. I think another guy to consider is J.C. Horn. I'm big on J.C. Horn. Big physical cornerback. I think he's gonna be very good.
All the cornerbacks this year are great.
Yeah, great QB class, great CB class. I think both a lot of teams really jumped on that. Thank you for the Broncos for taking Surtain as well. My immediate guy, I think it goes a lot further than the football field. I think it's Penei Sewell. I think Dan Campbell wants to really, really assert that team is a tough team. They're not going to win ball games this year. They're in a really tough division.
Big time football guy.
Yeah, he's obviously big. He drinks 87 gallons of coffee every day. So, but Penei Sewell falling to them, and no one trading up for him, I think really is good. They're going to establish the run. DeAndre Swift, if barring he stays healthy, I think could be an awesome 3-down back. Probably one of the better ones in that division. Getting up there with the
Jamal Williams is solid too.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is a great change of pace. Jamar Jefferson's kind of interesting, but I think that they're going to try to establish tough football. I mean, you got T.J. Hawkinson as a tight end who's really stepped up year 2. Their outside passing game is not great. Jared Goff he's probably not going to be the franchise quarterback, but for Penei Sewell, he's got to be good. He's got to be that offense. He's got to be the offensive lineman leader. I mean, he's got to be, whether they play him at tackle or guard, I'm not too sure, but he's a big physical guy, and I think that as the number one tackle coming in, he's basically going to be the culture piece. Are they going to win at the line of scrimmage on both ends, especially on offense? Like, are they going to, and that's what Dan Campbell wants to do. He wants to shove the ball at people's throats, and I hope that happens. I hope it's entertaining football by them. And
he reminds me kind of like Mekhi Becton with the Jets last year. Like, he came in, he's a great left tackle, can play right tackle. Obviously not a good team, not a contending team, but he's setting the right pace for their offensive line and like building it that way. So I think that it's very similar. Also, Tristan Wirfs, obviously better team, the Buccaneers, but he was great this year as well.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
I think he could be like that.
I hang my hat on the only sack that Wirfs gave up was when Khalil Mack basically threw him on top of Tom Brady. So that was pretty cool. But so Wirfs was great, but I think Becton, I think he kind of came out of nowhere, which was like people kind of scratch their heads when the Jets took him, and he really impressed. So yeah, I think Penei Sewell's got to be that guy. I think he's got to really set. He's got to really. I'm not sure if he's going to play tackle or guard. I think they got him in the left tackle position.
I think they do, yeah.
But I think
the great thing about him is he can play all along
everywhere, including center, from what I've heard. So if they really want to, get weird, but I think he's going to really be, he's going to establish, that team's that team's culture.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. I know it was a long episode, but it's been the first one in about a year, so it's good to be back. And once you get rambling on things, you can't stop. So
exactly.
In the future, we're gonna try and like cut down episodes a little bit, do more like 20-30 minute ones. Might have some guests come on, try new different things, maybe a mock draft in the future to try to help out some fantasy guys. Do a bunch of different things and try to keep it a little short because I know no one wants to listen to us for an hour, 20 minutes. So we'll try not to do that in the future. But for me and Alex, appreciate it. And the Trails Up podcast will be back next week. See you guys.
Peace.